It's much better that we've got a secure understanding rather than pressing on and people getting a bit of information misunderstood and so on. So as I said, when I come to plan my lessons, first thing I ever do is I look at the solo verbs. Fantastic, I've got that. I then start thinking about how I can use those solo verbs to structure my learning objectives and try and structure this element of getting progress in my lessons. I then start thinking about how I'm going to start to plan shallow to deep learning in my lessons, and I use this sheet which is off of the PAMHook website, where the link is in the chat box there for you if you want to click on that and download lots of their free resources, and I start planning it through. I then start planning through my activities and thinking about where we're going to start, where we're going to go in the middle, how we're going to end up at the end, and maybe start writing some key questions down, and then we move on to what we call the solo rubrics. Okay. Sticking with our somatotype example, I give this to every group in my class. They all sit on tables, and when they're on their tables, I have one of these in A3, and I just put it on the table, and at the very start of the lesson I ask students, as I said in my plan, I'm going to get them to just have a look at the assessment leveler and see what they know. So students have this in front of them, and in pairs or in their groups of 4, they start reading it out and discuss what do they know about the term somatotyping. So I'm unsure what somatotyping is. Some of the students will turn around there and say that's what level they're at. They've never heard of it before. Some students may say, well, I know one idea or fact about somatotyping. So there we go. I've already know that some students in my class are starting at that level. Some students may turn around and say that I know the various types of somatotypes and can define and describe them, and I can list the various components of each somatotype. I'd be very impressed if a lot of students coming in at the end of year 9, start of year 10 can do that, but that'd be a great starting point for some students. Some students, if they say they can explain how they link and how each type links together, and they can classify them and with a score, and they can relate different athlete somatotypes to relevant sports and so on, then they'd obviously be at the relational level. And then at the very top there, if students can actually turn around and link to other topics such as diet and training methods and evaluate the impact that somatotyping has on them or they have on it, then that's the top end level there, and they can use their significant knowledge there to evaluate the benefits to somatotyping to various sports, professionals and amateurs. That I know is my very top level, and if a student starts at a level, then I really need to start thinking on my feet. But normally, for most topics, students are normally at the unistructural, pre-structural, and few at the multistructural stage. Now, I give that at the very start of the lesson, and there's 2 things I can do with it. If I'm a very clever teacher, I can stand there and actually, on a table, if I've got one that's on pre-structural, one on multistructural, one on relational, I can then, on that table, actually start setting 4 different tasks, or 3 different activities, or 2 different activities, so I'm catering for the needs. Now that gets quite a bit messy at times with different people working at different levels. So the other thing I try and do is when they're at their assessment level, and my students have got to that stage now where I can trust that they are actually effectively leveling themselves because we've done it so much, and I really try and get students to demonstrate that they are at that level to begin with. I then may say, right, all those that are at the unistructural level who know one thing, you come to this table over here, like primary schools do, and have them working at one particular set level. And then I may then have on another table some tasks on multistructural. I may then work with relational on another level, or I may work at extended abstract on another table. So I have different tables working on different things, and then students, obviously, we can then move them on. Weirdly, most students move on at the same time, so I can then just move the whole table on to the next task. But if there is like one student who gets it quite quickly, and they look at the criteria which is in front of you on the screen at the minute, and they say, do you know what, sir, I can do this, I need to move to the next level, then I can maybe just like take that one student and move them up to the next table and get them to work that way. So it's very, very personalised, individual differentiation going on there, and every student is being catered for, and they're all making their individual levels of progress. There are some lessons though where all students start at the same level, so you can go through that stage of giving them all the facts and skilling them up at the multistructural level, and then you end up pretty much moving the whole class on together. Now I've had a mixture of lessons where I've moved the whole class on together, and I've had a mixture of lessons where I've had students working on separate tables and moving on together that way. But these are really, really important bits of kit. And again, they can be found on the PAMHook website, and then obviously all you need to do then is import it as a picture into a Word document and just start typing over it the criteria which your specification says students need to know for each particular topic and each particular level. And it's really, really good. Always remember to look back at the solo verbs as you're doing these to make sure you're chucking in at the top end level the words like evaluate. and the words like theorise and predict and so on, because again, that's the challenge level we're trying to get students to, and they're really, really good to get it in there. During the lesson, I can get students to look through it and self-assess the pieces of work that they're doing, and see, is the bit of work you're doing actually proving that you're at that particular level, and what do you need to do to move that particular piece of work on. Or at the end of a lesson, I can then get students to say, well, where did you start, where are you at now, and how much progress on this one particular topic, on this one element of activity that we've been doing, how much progress have you made? Now obviously that's not saying that they're experts if they move from bottom to top in one lesson on somatotyping, because there may be still elements of somatotyping that we haven't covered yet, which all links into the bigger picture. But it's really great way for you to obviously level in your lessons and check that progress. Another trick of the trade, again found on the PalmHook website, and we started using a lot of these last years. We originally used these before we came across Solo, and they're called graphic organisers. We find them as a really great visual way to get students in lessons to, on bits of paper, like Venn diagrams, on T-charts, on double bubble maps, things like that. They're a really good way of getting students to map out their thinking. Now PalmHook has, with the Hooked on Thinking website, has actually started putting various graphic organisers or hot maps, higher order thinking maps, for various different levels. So for instance, on the multi-structural one there, we've got a describe map, which I might zoom into so you can have a little look. And all that involves is a bit of paper with the topic in the middle. There we go, the topic in the middle, so maybe somatotyping or diet or health going in the middle, and then just in the boxes around the outside, students just write in the key terminologies, the facts, the things which make up that particular topic. So you may on here write somatotype in the middle, ectomorph in one of the boxes, endomorph in another one of the boxes, mesomorph, and then write things like broad shoulders and stuff. So it's just a way of listing the different particular topics for that one idea. So it's just getting the multi-structural stuff. I will show you some examples in a minute of how I've used this in lesson, but if we look on to maybe the relational level, we use quite a lot of what we call the compare and contrast map, which is right in the middle there. And all that is you have two particular topics, and you write one in the middle left box, just here, and one in the right box there. Down the middle boxes where they link is obviously how the two topics interlink, which is showing you obviously the relational level, how two different topics interlink. And on the outside is how they're separate. So I'll show you an example in a minute of how I use this for aerobic system on the left and anaerobic system on the right. Down the middle boxes where they interlink, where how the two systems are similar, and on the outside boxes is how they are completely different. And then right at the top, there's some really good ones up there as well for things like generalization, prediction. But it's well worth going onto PalmHook's website or getting the book and reading through to find out, obviously, how you may use those different hot maps for different things. But they're a really powerful way of visualizing your thinking, and then you can draw answers out of those hot maps and then into any exam questions and stuff which you're practicing. Going to go now and obviously stop sharing my screen, and I'm going